Hey guys, and welcome on back to my channel. We are currently in the process of creating textures for all of the items that we have 3D modeled for the Grove scene in the vertical slice map for the tutorial level. This is the final section of the game for the tutorial level. It is the location where we're going to have a fight scene happen. And as a lot of you may have known, if you don't know, we are working from the back to the front when designing this level. It just works out better that way. There is more interesting things that need to happen at the end of the map than at the start of the map, and there are a lot more things that are going on in these areas than there is at the beginning of the map level location and things like that. So last video, I discussed a little bit of things about the rock texture that I've created. Now I'm discussing this simple tree texture that I've made. I know a lot of other substance designer programmers or texture creators, however you want to call them. There's a little bit of programming and a little bit of actual artistry that goes into creating textures when you're using substance designer. And so far I've been creating very simple textures with these because I don't really need the crazy amount of high fidelity or high realism and photorealistic appearance to a lot of these. I need just something that is very pleasing to the eye, isn't too cartoonish and isn't too realistic. It kind of straddles that barrier of it all fairly well. And so that's where I have created this lovely tree bark texture. I really enjoy it. When the player gets up close to it, they can see these nice wood grains and just bark textures and just discoloration with the deep dark grooves in the tree bark. It looks great in my opinion. It has that feel of realism to it, but it also has that stylistic approach to it all. And it's very easy to accomplish. All I was doing was mixing these two grunge maps to get this base roughness and AO map and just this base look to what I wanted my bark to look like for before I went in and added two shades of brown. I went with this very dark brown and this more reddish autumn color of a brown and mixed them together. And then I also added this crystal texture to it, and that created the darkness that I needed, the grunge factor for a good normals map and a good AO and height map. So now the map has that great depth that I needed. And when I finished with it, I was able to add even more depth so that these grooves looked deeper. This tree bark looked a little bit more raised through the light shine and the height of it. And even then, with this map, I still got a great, highly detailed normal map to run with. And all of this just has worked in my favor to create really nice, easy texture maps while also being able to control them enough to do a lot of different things. Like over here, I can control the balance that I have, and you can see what happens is I can end up getting rid of those deep grooves, and this almost starts to look like a polished piece of wood. And I could even adjust it further by going over to here, adjusting the roughness value to be a little bit more of a polished piece of wood. So this just makes this texture now instantly very versatile for me to use again for a lot of different things. And that's kind of what I always want to have with my textures is that the ability to have them used in multiple different ways, because now this wood texture I can come up with multiple different variations of it, and wherever I need a wood pattern to be in the game, I can just take this master texture that I've had, tell Substance Designer as well as Unreal, create a new random seed of this, and boom, I'll have a new texture. And players will be none the wiser that I'm using this one wood texture to create 50 other textures that players get to see in the game. And the reason behind why this is such a great way to go around creating your textures and why this is such an important method to creating textures is it allows the game to only have to call one texture, and then it'll populate that one texture with all of its instances. And so a one wood texture and one rock texture that has, say, 50 children or 50 instances only needs to be called once each time it's seen in the game's load screens, which makes loading up the game much faster for players. Because I know, like me, for a lot of games when I'm playing them and I'm stuck at long load screens, I kind of get distracted and it kind of detaches me from the game. And I'm kind of like, oh, I'm waiting through another load screen. And I end up doing something else. I end up looking at my phone while I'm waiting for my game to load. And then I end up being paying attention to my phone more than I am to the actual game. So creating textures like this that have a great appearance to the player and will be easy to call in the game will really help decrease my load times and really increase my stability for the game itself. So, a lot of different things going on here, a lot of things that I'm working on and thinking about when I'm making this. And it's just something, if you're creating designer textures, you're going to need to do a lot of things to figure out what Substance Designer textures you need to create and what texture maps you need for your game. Because if I wanted this to look a lot more realistic, I would need to create a lot more of these maps. I would have to intertwine a lot more grunge maps and dirt maps and just all sorts of different types of maps to get an actual realistic peeling bark texture instead of this more close to realism and close to tune, a nice stylistic approach that I have. So there's so much that you would have to do. You would have to create a very detailed roughness map. The normal map might be right around here, or it might just have more inputs heading into it. Because again, if you're going to create peeling bark that looks like it's very aged and weathered and has cracks and craters and knolls and all sorts of different things, you're going to have a lot more maps going into the normal generator. And the same down here for the AOs and heights. There'd be a lot more things going into those to create that detail, that depth, that color. The color, I would be intertwining more colors. I would have more blend nodes, and it would just, there would be more things involved than this little texture that you're seeing right now. And that's all based on what you want your game to look like, what you want the textures to be, and how complex and how much fidelity you need. Fidelity being the colors, the depth, the everything when you really think about it. So, just a little bit about textures, some fun things to see here. Gonna continue working on adding more textures, continue to show you guys more videos of these. So please stick around. Love to hear from you guys. Feel free, comment and like this video, and please subscribe. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.